So the great masters, we're talking about all of the Ninja Turtles, Leonardo, Michelangelo, all of the great masters said that the most important part of your drawing is the first 30 seconds. That first 30 seconds is called the gesture. So the gesture is the most important part. It's the first 30 seconds. This is where you're trying to get the basic proportion. This is where you're trying to get the balance. This is where you're trying to get the essence of the pose. So there is this singer from a band called REM, which I was never really into REM that much, but his name was Michael Stipe. He has a great quote, and the quote is, "You can't polish a turd." Now what he was talking about songwriting. And the idea being you can bring in American Idol background singers doing their ooh-la-las in the background. You can add keyboards and you can polish it up, have a really good mix at the end of your recording. But if you don't have a good song to begin with, if it isn't good songwriting, you can't polish a turd. The same is true with drawing. The essence of what you're drawing with your character, getting in the body language and everything else, if you don't rock it in that first 30 seconds, what you do draw, everything else after that, it's like you're polishing a turd, right? It's just not going to work out very well. You really need to own in on that first 30 seconds and you need to make it sing. That way, all of the extra polishing that you do after that is just the icing on the cake. So gesture is where it's at. Let me show you what it's all about. I've got some reference right here that I'm going to be drawing. These are actually some cool action poses, but these work really great because this is just going to show some dynamic figure, and I'm just going to try to capture the grace of the pose as we go along. So what you're ideally trying to do at first, you're trying to capture the skeletal structure. So let's say I'm going to draw this one right here. So I'm just going to open this up a little bit bigger. It's a little bit blurry reference, but should be all right. So here we go. Now your gestures, usually you're drawing a little bit small. You're just trying to map out the basic figure. So here's the head. The top part of the head is the cranium. Here's the mandible. Here's the spine. So I'm trying to see how the spine is working here. Here's the angle of the shoulders. So it's kind of like the clavicle going across. Here's this arm here coming down, going up. Here's this hand holding the katana. And then this arm is angling like that. This comes down like so. So a lot of times to find the angles, what you can do, a lot of times you can almost hold up as you're pointing, and you can kind of, like for this part of the arm here, you kind of see that angle, and then you can make that slash. You see the angle of the arm there, and you make that slash. You see the arm coming down like this, you make that slash, and that's how you're trying to find all of the angles. Then we've got the hips like this. Usually for the rib cage, you don't have to draw all of the ribs, but it's a skeletal structure, so you want to have some kind of indication of the rib cage, like so. That's the first thing that you do, and usually with students I have what's called mystery gestures, ranging anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. So the idea is you want to at least get the skeletal structure in that first 30 seconds. Then if you have more time, that's the icing on the cake, and that's when you can really start to go in and add some of the contour line around the shapes. So and when you're drawing that skeletal structure, you want to draw lightly, so that when you're drawing in kind of the contour, the real shapes, you can get a little bit darker, and that's what's going to stand out in your drawing. Forgot to draw the constantly fixing. You know what I'm realizing now? I've had people telling me about different programs like Figurosity, I think is what it's called, where you're using 3D models for your figures. And I'm realizing now that's exactly what this is. This isn't a real person, because what is up with his leg right there? It's not locked into his leg, just unless he just dislocated his butt cheeks. Something is not adding up. It's a little weird, and I can kind of tell with the rendering here. I grabbed these from online last night, and I didn't look at them closely. I just looked at them from far away, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Now it makes sense, because man, how would they capture a perfect photo leaping in the air like that? And that's because they're fake. Yeah, I can tell the way this leg is. This isn't a real human body. I'm realizing that now. Whoops-a-daisy. And that's the reason why I usually don't want my students to work with the 3D models. They're getting better, but that's broken. That's a broken hip right there. And again, this doesn't have ambient. I should have known this wasn't real. So I'm gonna move to another reference. Hopefully this one's real. Now let me take a look at this one. Darn it. Here we go. Okay, these are real. This is a real person. I like this one here with the shoulders and the hips kind of going different ways. So let's rock this out. One thing that you want to do, that you want to think about when you're doing your gesture, you don't want to just draw the head and then the shoulders and then she's standing. Oh, and then here's her hips here, and then here's, you know, the legs like that, and then here's this arm, and then here's this, you know, kind of going like that. You want to try to see the angle of the spine, and you want to see the way the rib cage is turned a little bit. These are the things that you want to capture in your gesture. A lot of times I start with the head, and just because it's a lot easier to kind of start from that and work your way around. So here's the cranium. Here is the mandible coming underneath. And then the neck is coming at an angle like this. But here's what's interesting. Her whole spine is kind of doing this S-curve thing where her neck kind of goes into her spine. See how the neck goes like this? But then the body curves like that, and then the hip kind of goes like that again. So there's this really nice kind of S-curve. The shoulders, if you look, this shoulder is just a little bit higher than this one. So I'm going to have just a slight angle. Here's the shoulder here. The rib cage is kind of turned away from us this way. So here's our rib cage. This arm is coming back behind the rib cage, and then it comes out like so. There's that hand, then this arm here. Just kind of got some guns. This here, and then we've got this hip bone. She's got this leg kind of kicked out, and you can see the angle of her hips. You can kind of tell from the way that her shorts are. This is the angle of the hips here, so I need to make sure I've got that same angle happening. This is where the femur goes in here, this is where the femur goes in here. So then this leg is kind of coming around like this, and this leg is kicked out this way. There is my skeletal structure. And I know this looks really dark. It's kind of hard with charcoal not to draw dark because it's charcoal, but I wasn't pressing very hard. Now that I've got this skeletal structure, now that I've got this blueprint, now I'm going to try to find the edges and try to lock in. The rib cage there. Here's the breast here. Here's the deltoid. Look at that rockin' deltoid. Like that. Here's the bicep. Tricep underneath. Here's the lats kind of coming underneath like so. Forearm, elbow, Might have made this arm a little too long, but sometimes you don't see that, and so it's okay to kind of fix and correct your drawing as you go. Now the hip comes out this way. And we see the arm here just kind of coming right underneath here. There's sword there. Then if I had a little bit more time, I could actually go in and do the shading. But usually for a gesture, it's just kind of the basics of the figure. You're looking for the balance. When you're done, it should look like the figure isn't about to fall over. You're trying to kind of plan all that out. You can find lots of good reference online, and you can do your quick little studies, or better yet, you can get a friend to pose for you. And trying to get really good gesture is going to help you out. Faux shizzle. Did you enjoy class today? If so, give me a like. If there's something you'd like to see me cover in a future video, let me know what that is in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I've also got a video series called Sketchbook Challenge that helps your drawing, creativity, and fill up an awesome looking sketchbook. Plus, there are videos on You Can Draw Star Wars, Hollywood is Dead, and sneak peeks at the Aladdin 3477 motion picture trilogy. In order to not miss any new videos, hit that notification bell. Sharing is caring, and it's great to inspire your friends. Share this video on social media, and your friends will share awesome art tips they find with you. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Matt_Busch_Instagram. I'll see you back in the classroom soon. Don't be tardy.